Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the channel, we are taking a quick look at 3 different ways to build out a galaxy for your science fiction games. So I know that a lot of the stuff I cover on the channel is more fantasy based, and that's mainly because of 2 reasons. One, fantasy is more in my wheelhouse. I do like fantasy more than science fiction. And 2, I think maybe because of that, it might be some kind of maybe a self-fulfilling prophecy or something. But I just happen to have a lot more tools at my disposal for fantasy gaming. I am, though, amassing a small collection of science fiction things, and I am finding that over time, I am really enjoying my time playing in a more science fiction universe. Of course, the science fiction I like is a little weirder. I think you might say it's like something like science fantasy or kind of bizarre, weird science fiction, but it is fun playing in space. And there are some really good tools out there for creating your galaxies, for creating your galaxy sandboxes. Now, a couple of things we are not taking a look at in this video are the 2 big ones from Kevin Crawford, and those are Stars Without Number and Worlds Without Number. I still don't have those. Those have been in my queue, in my shopping cart, on my wish list for ages, and I just haven't pulled the trigger yet on those. Eventually we will, and I'll probably at some point, maybe far too late, take a look at those. But in today's videos, we are taking a look at 3 different systems, 3 different sets of tools. That is Space Ages, Voyages, and Infinite Space, which we have taken a very, very detailed look at this in a previous video. I'll post a link above. And so I won't spend a ton of time on this book, but if you want to find out more, you can watch my very detailed review. We'll take a look at Star Dogs, the Referee's Handbook, and we'll also take a look at the Galaxy Builder decks. And these were actually sent to me as a preview copy. I got a little sampling of these Galaxy Builder decks. And these are available on DriveThruRPG as either printed decks or you can buy PDFs. Star Dogs I got off of Lulu, and Space Aces you can get off of Etsy. We'll also take a quick look, a little bonus look at something from Kevin Crawford, and that is Dead Names, Lost Races, and Forgotten Ruins. And this is a pretty cool little supplement that you could really use for any of these systems. What I appreciate about all 3 of these systems is that they are very different, not just in execution, but in the kind of science fiction worlds they present. Space Aces, Voyages, and Infinite Space is for people who like 80s space anime, or maybe Saturday morning cartoon style anime, maybe something like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's very silly, it's absurd, it's super light and fun, and man, it's a blast to play in. At the complete opposite end of that spectrum in terms of theme, I think we have the Galaxy Builder decks. And I think I would recommend these for people who like their science fiction a little more serious, a little more grounded in space. These are good for more space survival, serious science fiction of exploring all kinds of different worlds. Think of things maybe like a serious episode of Star Trek or The Expanse or the video game even No Man's Sky. And I think this is probably the best at giving you a really big picture of the galaxy. Space Aces, I think, is best at giving you a more focused picture of certain things that are going on. And Star Dogs is somewhere kind of right in the middle of both of these. And Star Dogs, I think, works really well for adventure science fiction, for maybe a space western, or maybe things like the Stainless Steel Rat or Firefly or Star Wars and that kind of stuff. And all 3 are pretty great. So let's start with Space Aces, and then we'll go to Star Dogs. We'll finish up with Galaxy Builder, and then we'll also take a look at Dead Names. Okay, first up, we'll take a look at Space Aces, Voyages in Infinite Space, the new guidebook, and the Galaxy in a Box. So, longtime viewers of the Dungeon Dive will know Space Aces is one of my favorite solo RPGs. I love this game to death. It is so much fun. It's so simple, so laser focused on the fun at the table, and I love it. So, a new guidebook you can still get on Drive-Thru RPG as a zine that you can print out yourself. The designer might have some of these left. You might want to contact him through his Discord channel or maybe his Etsy store, where you can get Space Aces, Voyages in Infinite Space, and Galaxy in a box as physical editions. So this is a complete game. This has all of the rules that you need to run very simple science fiction, space exploration, and space fun, fun in space games. Very, very silly, very kind of wacky and goofy, 80s anime and Saturday morning cartoon style. But there's a lot going on here. And in the new guidebook has a whole bunch of random charts that you can roll up to create things like different types of aliens and mechs and friends and enemies, gizmos and gadgets, different types of spaceships and different types of planets and things. And you can use these charts in here to augment all of the things that are also presented in Voyages in Infinite Space. And what Voyages in Infinite Space is more focused on is a whole mess of planets and just bodies in space and weird different things that you can find in space. And each page is basically focused on a different planetary body and the things that you can do as the player when you get there. So as a GM, you could look at this and you could run your players through it. Or as a solo player, you could look at this and when you visit the Ravati sector, you might have these different distressing calls coming from the planet. What happens when you scan the planet? What kind of information do you learn? We have a D6 table for different things that you might detect as you enter into this planetary system. Some of the planets will have delves, and these are little dungeon crawls. Or maybe some scrap yards that you can find, some different features and interests. And there are so many different planets and so many different kinds of asteroid belts and space stations and just all kinds of things to discover. It is so much fun. And it's very simple to create your universe, your galaxy in this game using the Galaxy in a Box. And so this is a box of large hex cards. And these large hex cards will have some empty space. And so that will be the space that you are traveling to as you are out in deep space. And there is a whole mess of different encounters that you can have while you are traveling in deep space. And the deep space encounters are really cool. Let me see if I can find them real quick. Okay, so here we have all of our deep space encounters. You roll, I think it's a D20 and then a D6. So I don't know, let's do an example here. So you're out traveling through this hex, which is deep space. And so you come across a 16-3. Okay, let's turn to 16-3 here. And this is a ginormous and invisible to scanners void kraken and another D6. It's a 6, fighting a cosmic leviathan. Okay, that is awesome. That's something that you just found randomly in deep space, and that could be an entire adventure and an entire scenario. And then the book also does come with all kinds of different missions that you can roll up for when you are traveling from one planet to the next, or giving you a reason to travel from one planet to the next. And the new guidebook has mission generating tables, so very, very cool. But to generate your galaxy, you'll take a certain number of your deep space tiles, and then the rest of the tiles all correspond to a detailed page or pages in the Voyages in Infinite Space. And so you have all of your different planets, your nebulae, your different asteroids, all of your different heavenly bodies, all of those things. And so you could take, I don't know if you want to play a small galaxy here, you could take a 4 deep space, and then you could randomly have some of those. You should always have your Lanai planet in your galaxy because this is your Space Aces base of operations. This is where you get your missions. This is where you're working from. The game is kind of set up to simulate a cosmic gig economy, and you're out there just trying to squeak by, just trying to make a living in outer space. So then you can take all of your hexes and you could just start laying them out. So there's our Lanai, that's our main planet there. There we have Ionos, and we have right here, we have Berez. And then maybe here we have, what is this, Lupin, the Lupin system there. And that looks like kind of some kind of a weird glowing planet. Is that a star? I don't know. Stargazer. Here is more deep space, so we can put some deep space there. And then maybe this system here, Huffleton is over here. And then we'll place, we've got two more. Let's do here. So another deep space there, and then more deep space. Let's put some deep space here, and just so we have a kind of an interesting shape. So we could start here, there's Lanai, and maybe our mission is way down here. So we would have to travel. The game has rules for traveling through space. It's a really neat system. It's kind of a pressure luck D6 system where you're trying to roll as close to a 6 as possible, and you can keep rolling, but if you bust, then something bad happens. I love it. So simple. Such a simple and elegant system. And it's also a really simple and elegant way to handle your exploration and to create your galaxy. It's very simple. It's very fast, a lot like the whole system itself. And I kind of like the science fiction theming, the science fiction worlds that this game creates are a reflection of how easy the game is, you know? So that's what I'm saying. If you like your kind of your simple sci-fi, your 80s anime, or your Saturday morning cartoon style science fiction, this is for you. But let's say we've traveled through here. We saw that space kraken, and then we came to Ionos. And then we could find Ionos in the book here. Okay, so Ionos sector, that is on page 54. Turn to page 54, and we come to the Ionos sector. The Ionos sector, as rich in music as it is in strange and deadly energy anomalies with zero chill. Home to such famous bands as the Sea Monkeys, the Backstreet Boys, and the Cantron Orchestra. If only errant plasma lightning would stop frying my systems. Okay, so we do a sector scan of the Ionos sector, and Contron coral starships sing as they sail the spaces between planets here. Beautiful music floods the Ionos sector, reverberating like a tuning fork off hull plating. It is centered on the planet Lakas, which appears to be in a frozen state of perpetually exploding. Interesting. Meanwhile, strange plasma lightning lances from the wasteland planet of V's, striking the watery surfaces of Kantos repeatedly as if it had a life of its own. And what do our scanners detect as we approach the planet here? A 6. A wandering space captain. Okay, so then we could turn to page 18, and we could we could encounter one of these wandering space captains. There are 20 different wandering space captains. Here we have a mission here, a whole adventure that takes place here called The Song That Never Ends. We have our hook, the problem, the hitch, and the pickle. So all of the things that you would need to have an adventure here. And then here we have the details of our planet Kantos, V's, and Lakas. So a really interesting star system. This one tile, this one little star system could provide us with probably hours of play. We have different features of interest, different a dungeon delve here, what's happening on Kantos. We have a delve on Lakas, a delve on V's, what's happening there, and so on. So yeah, just really cool, really simple, really fast, and really fun. And that is kind of the main 3 reasons why I love Space Aces so much. Okay, next up we have Star Dogs, the Referee's Handbook. So this is a referee's handbook to a system called Star Dogs, a complete system. I have never seen the system. I just use the Referee's Handbook because this thing is just overflowing with charts and tables, random things to roll up to generate everything that you would need to have generated to have fun in a solo science fiction role-playing game. And man, this book is amazing. It's so slim, but it is so packed full of information. And I just can't say enough good things about this book. I bought mine on Lulu. And I heard about this from Alan from Perplexing Ruins in one of our one-on-one chats alone together with the Dungeon Dive and Perplexing Ruins. And as soon as I was done recording that episode, I went to Lulu and I bought this. And I bought it. Alan plays this along with Monolith. And Monolith is a system that is based off of Knave. And so, or Cairn, I'm sorry, Cairn. So Monolith is a really cool, simple system. But I'm not using that. I am just using Star Dogs to create my galaxy. And here we have my first galaxy that I'm creating for this video here. I'm just calling that galaxy number 1. One thing that I don't have, and maybe somebody can recommend something to me, but I would love a way to randomly generate names for galaxies, for planets, for star sectors, and things like that. I'm not very good at coming up with names for these things. I think I've just spent so much time coming up with names for fantasy things, and it's much easier for me. So, a name generation book or guide for science fiction naming things would be super cool. I'm trying to find something like that. So the way you create a universe in Star Dogs is super cool. You will take a number of different sized dice. I took D6s and you kind of drop them on your page. And these are your stars. So these are your stars. And the number that you rolled, that corresponds to the number of orbiting objects, orbiting sectors around each one of those stars. And then you will draw kind of random lines connecting and creating this kind of weird puzzle type shape. And these are all of your star sectors. Now, because space is 3 dimensions, the size, the size of these doesn't really matter, or the shape doesn't really matter. What matters most is the spacing between them. So I have star sector 16 over here. It would take a really long time to reach star sector 4 and so on. But the shape doesn't really matter because it's 3D. So space kind of folds in on itself, and maybe there are wormholes connecting these. But what's really cool about this, what's really neat about this system is it's super fast, and it also gives you the opportunity to roll up random things really quickly. Because we could say, okay, I have 3 stars here, so I want to generate some kind of quest in one of these star systems, and I don't know which one. So I can roll a D3. Okay, 1. So takes place in star system 1. Star system 1 can have up to, it looks like a D4 as far as the orbits there. So let's see where my quest is. It is in orbit 4. So it is in this outer orbit of star number 1. That's where my quest goes. Let's say I have a random star sector that I'm starting in. I chose to limit my star sectors to 20 so I could roll a D20. I'm starting in star sector 19, which is over here. I need to get all the way over to star number 1 and to orbit number 4 in order to do whatever I need to do on my mission. Super, super cool. I love that. I love the way this looks, and it is just so much fun. So I have kind of populated the star 1 here, and I have my composition book here. And so this is all of my details that I'm going to keep about this galaxy. And so I could return to this galaxy. We could roll up 4 or 5 different galaxies and place them together on a large map. Super fun. So I said that my star number 1 here is Sol X-1. Orbit number 1, I rolled up was empty. Orbit number 2 is an enormous cubic stone-like structure littered with doorways and windows, and it drains electric energy. So in orbit number 2, there's this huge cubic stone-like structure, possibly some kind of Borg-like structure, and it is orbiting this planet, and it is littered with all kinds of different doors and windows. It looks like some kind of, I don't know if you would say a sentient made structure. And when you get close to it, it drains electrical energy. In orbit number 3 is a large comet that was stuck in orbit, and from it is emitting a intriguing transmission. Okay, so that would be something we could investigate. And in orbit number 4 here, we have a planet that is made up of enormous biobubbles of atmosphere that are floating in space. And in between these biobubbles is a whole mess of ruins and rubble and rocks. And so it's almost like the planet has been broken up, and these different pieces of it are kind of floating together with all of these rocks in between. And what I was thinking, what would be really cool is this enormous cubic stone-like structure that actually came from this planet. And that was kind of an energy generating structure, some kind of factory, some kind of refining factory or something that was holding all of this stuff together in this planet. And something happened where it lost connection or an explosion. And so that piece of technology floated away. And as it floated away, the planet lost its ability to hold itself together. And so you could have a whole mission here where you need to take some kind of giant space tow truck or tugboat and tow that cubic that cube stone-like structure back to the planet to put it back together or something like that. Super cool. And all of that was just done randomly from these charts here. So we also have a few star sectors that I did. So I have star sectors 1 through 20 in the book here. And so in star sector 1, we have a starless planet. I haven't done any details on that yet. Number 2, there's a space station. Number 3, we have a random space encounter. Number 4 is empty. And in number 5, there is a nebula. So when you start creating your universe, your galaxy here, it'll show you how to do that. In each one of your orbiting sectors, you will roll a d4 and to see what is in each one of those sectors. On a 1, it's empty. On a 2, we have a planet, and the planet generators start on page 6. On orbit 3 or number 3, we have a space station, and the generators for that start on page 9. And then number 4, we have a random space encounter. Now, what I did just to prevent all of the orbits from being empty, because that would be just kind of boring and it would be just a waste of time of putting this all together just to have everything be empty, is when I roll on empty, I add 1 to the next roll up to 4, up to the max of 4. And then the same thing happens with your different star sectors. You roll a d6. On a 1 to 2, it's empty. And again, a +1 to the next roll. That's my house rule. 3, we have a starless planet. 4, a space station. 5, a random space encounter. And then on a 6, we have a nebula. And so there are a whole bunch of different random nebulae. So when we have a planet, like our starless planet here, we can go to our planet generating tables, and we can see what our planet is like. So we can take a D4 and a D10. So what is the landscape of this, the kind of the overriding landscape of this starless planet in star sector 1? We have 3 and 4. Okay, 3 and 4. Dead plains covered in mountains of bones of unknown aliens. Super cool. Okay. Well, that's neat. Okay, so then we have in star sector 2. Now we could drill further down by having our planet atmosphere, what kind of atmosphere our planet has, and also the planet population. And then there are also other charts in here for coming up with aliens and different types of things. And then here we have our star sector 2 is a space station. And here we have a whole bunch of generators for creating space stations and outposts that might be on planets. The space station, is it a derelict? Is it empty? Does it have humans or outlaws? Let's see what kind of space station we're dealing with. That's a D8. 4, escaped synthoids. Okay, so escaped synthoids are in this sector here. And what is the key purpose of the space station? Let's roll a D6 and then a D10. 1, 4. Okay, 1, 4. Quarantine prisons. Interesting. Okay, so there are some prisons out here, and maybe there is another prison out here, and some synthoids have escaped from that prison and maybe taken over a smaller space station or something like that. Very, very easy to generate stories from all of these tables. And so we also have ways to generate random encounters. And the random encounters are back here on page 50, I believe. Yes, so we have a D20 random encounter for scenery and a modifier. So we had a random encounter here in star sector 3. And let's take our D20. Okay, a 5. A space station, no lights, signals, or transmissions are emitting from it. Okay, so some kind of derelict space station. And a 12. Physical objects in the area are coated with a cluster of dog-sized eggs. Eggs may or may not be covered in slime and goop and with a raised stalk. Obscene alien life forms may or may not be contained within. Okay, so we have basically discovered a space hulk that we can go and maybe we can go and loot for some supplies there and also fight some aliens. But throughout the rest of the book, we have different ways, different shapes that your space stations can be in with different types of corridors and rooms. We have here what kind of buildings there might be in your group of buildings there. An NPC generator, super great for coming up with NPCs and their modus operandi, what they are trying to do. their appearance, what the NPCs want, very detailed NPC creation, an NPC group generator. So what is a culture like when you want to have a group of NPCs that are living on a planet or something? So you can have all kinds of different charts for coming up with alien cultures and different types of alien species, their different special abilities, the way they look, what their culture is like. A table for role-playing NPCs, a D12 reaction table, alignment tables. What does the NPC think of the other NPC? So you can establish different types of relationships between not just your individual NPCs, but also your cultures. So you can have warring cultures or cultures that are trying to establish peace with each other throughout the galaxy. Maybe you're a peace broker and your job is to go from a planet over here and a planet over here and broker peace between these two different cultures. We have mission generating tables for locations, what types of danger. We have for generating more types of space dungeons or maybe caverns, sector stocking. So ensure you have the basic understanding of who or what dwells in each sector. So we have all kinds of tables for that. Visual manifestation, how things look, different types of traps. It's a trap, there's always space traps. And so who knows what is waiting for you in that space hulk. You might need to draw something up here or roll something up there. And then how does the trap affect its victims? So what have those aliens? Those aliens have set something up over here. And that's a D6 and a D8. So you come to this space hulk and you find it's a 5-4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. 5, 4. Some kind of chain. How would I interpret a chain trap? Maybe some kind of like a space chain, some kind of space laser, a grappling chain that reaches out and grabs your ship and tries to pull it in. And how does this affect its victims? Let's see. 310. Must restrain or cage its victim. Okay, yeah, so it's trying to wrap me in and pull me in to this derelict space hulk, and the aliens are waiting for me there to ambush me once my ship gets close enough. We have a technology generator. How does the technology operate? What kind of technology it is, or how impressive it is, and what the base materials are, special power modifiers, and then we are random space encounters, and we have some subtables here for galactic palettes that are floating about, different types of anomalies, different types of spaceships you might encounter, a spacecraft generator, the shape of the spacecraft. I mean, this book is so amazing. You can have so much fun just on an 8.5 by 11 or A4 or A3, A5, whatever size sheet of paper you want, with a few star systems, with some orbits and some empty sectors and some star sectors rolling up randomly and just hopping from sector to sector, hopping from star to star and just seeing what you discover. And you could very easily play this with any system. I was just kind of making up a system as I was going, saying if I wanted to go from 16 to 5, I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, the fastest way there. And you could take a D6. So you could put, 1, 2, 3, 4, because you have to travel through the sector you're in because they're so large, I'm saying. So start a D6 on 4 there, and then you take another D6. And if you roll between a 1 and a 4, you have an encounter here, a 6. Okay, no encounter there. So then you move to the next sector, and that drops down to a 3. On a 1 to a 3, now you have an encounter. No, okay. So that drops down to a 2. On a 1 to a 2, you have an encounter. On a 1, okay, so we would have an encounter. So then we could roll up our random chart and see what we find in that star sector. Super, super fun. And I have really enjoyed it. This is one of the best, I think, bang for your buck products that I have ever purchased. I'm so happy to own this. Okay, next up we have the Galaxy Builder decks, and these are for people who want, I think, a little more seriousness in their sci-fi. Maybe you like things like The Expanse, or you like the serious episodes of Star Trek or something like that. Maybe you like survival style games like No Man's Sky, and you want to build a system that you can play in that emulates that type of science fiction. So there are a ton, I think a dozen or so of these Galaxy Builder decks that are available. I have a very, very small sampling. So we have different types of planet traits, so different ways you can modify your planets in different planets. We also have a small sampler here of an asteroid set. And then we also have a sample tech level set. and a sample starter set that comes with some stars and some planets. And so we'll take a look at these. This system here, they're from Journey Mountain Studios. They also have these maps that you can buy, and you can get these from drive-through as well. And these are your orbit maps or your different star sectors, and you can put those out like this. So we have 1B, 2B, and yeah, okay. So there we have those together like that. Maybe you want to put one more. Maybe you want to have three different lengths here. And so this would be the galaxy that you are playing in. And so you could put your sun here. So let's go to our starter set here. And this starter set comes with one sun, I believe. So this is the MV class star. It's a red dwarf. It has extreme gravity, very hot, incinerating, lots of radiation, no water, no minerals, no vegetation, and the temperature value is very, very high. And then on the back here, we have a few things that you could roll up. We have some stellar features, which is a D10 roll. A 4, there are large solar flares. And then here we have a stellar object description and the stellar effects of this star. On a nitrogen-oxygen planets, skies appear red to purple, with flora appearing dark red to black to absorb as much sunlight as possible. Planets in the close habitable zone tend to be tidally locked, resulting in extreme seasons and weather. There's also a deck. I don't have this deck yet, but it is a star system deck, and it lays out where the habitable and inhabitable zones are in relationship to your stars. But we can place our star here in the center of our galaxy, and then we could take our planets in this starter set, of which there are 4, and we have different planets here. So we have a medium glacial planet, a large volcanic planet, a small barren planet, and a huge ringed ice giant. So I would say, if maybe you want to do it randomly, but we could place in this orbit here our large volcanic planet. Maybe in this orbit here, we have our medium glacier planet, a small barren planet out here, and our huge ringed ice giant there. And then we also have some different asteroids that we could place out. And then you could even drill in further into further detail if you want to have some kind of a civilization on, let's say, your medium glacier and your ringed ice giant have some civilization there. Then we have some technological levels from anywhere from the Stone Age to the Galactic Age. And so you could shuffle these up and randomize these. So the culture here, we have the industrial age on this planet here. And so that tells you what equivalent to Earth's 19th century. Technology has advanced to harness steam power, create alloys, antiseptic and powered factories. Societies are increasingly urbanized, expanding their influence via powered travel and wired communications. And then here we have more details about this industrial age here. What kind of energy, what kind of travel, weapons, structures, information, materials, environment, and so on. And so we could place that under that planet there. And then here we also have an inhabited planet, and it is the information age, so a little more advanced than our planet there. And then that gives you all of the details there for your information age. Now, each one of these planets will have their gravitational system, information about their atmosphere, and also what you might find on the planet. So a good deal of water, low temperature, no minerals, and no vegetation. And then here we have some of the major terrains, which is a D10 and 8. Radiation fields, what kind of planet this is. This is a Class I ice giants or massive worlds primarily composed of thick layers of hydrogen, helium, methane, and ammonia gases revolving around an icy liquid core. Interesting. So I'm sure the inhabitants on this planet live in these kind of dome-like structures or something. And the inhabitants on this planet are really good at engineering, really good at mining for maybe ice or something. They are adept at using suits, and they live in some kind of homes or something like that. I wish that there was a guidebook that you could get for these Galaxy Builder decks that detailed the icons a little bit more, because sometimes I have a hard time interpreting what these mean in relationship to the planet. So that's just one little criticism. I would love to see a whole guidebook that has some more detailed instructions on how to use these. We also have some cards here, some different traits. So you might have a civilization trait. Maybe this is a trash dump planet, and so you could attach that there. Maybe this is a quarantined world. Different satellites. Maybe different satellites are networked around the small barren planet. So you can really dive deep into this system by laying more cards on each one of your planets. It's super, super cool. So here we have our planet deck. And the planet deck, as the name implies, is just chock full of different types of planets. So we have all different types of planets and stars. And so here with this, you could build a galaxy with all kinds of different planets and different stars. And each one of those has all kinds of different information for you to randomly roll up to see what type of planet you have. And here we have our traits. There's also the technology. There's the whole deck of technology. There's a deck for spooky planets, for weird planets. And I like this traits deck a lot. Tidally locked, an axial tilt, rotational period, a decaying orbit, meteor storms, shattered crust, windy weather, very windy, super foggy. There are huge cave systems, a lot of volcanic activity, venting, rocky formations. It's tainted, it's corrosive, high nitrogen, methane, helium, sulfur dioxide, invertebrates, sentient and primitive. So yeah, you can have all of these traits. So really, really fun to use these trait cards in conjunction with the planet cards to really dive deep into each system. And it does feel, when you're laying these out and when you're exploring, it does feel like you are playing on No Man's Sky kind of on your table. So I think a lot of people will really like these, especially people who want a little more seriousness in their science fiction. I did want to show a few free things that you can get from this company, and these are available on DriveThruRPG, again, from Journey Mountain Studios. And these are very, very handy sheets. If I was them, I would be charging for these because they're really cool. But yeah, you can just go and get these for free. So we have a way, these sheets here where you can keep track of all of your planets, all of your galaxies. So you might set this up and really like the way you dealt out your random cards. Well, then you could sit here with this chart and you could draw it all in and you can write it so you could recreate this. We have different inhabitable zones, where those are. So depending on where they are in relationship to your star, the habitability of the habitable zone, your gas giants, where your asteroid belts are, your system summary, your system traits. And again, those are probably from other decks that have more general information about this entire system, about this entire galaxy. And then we have here the details of what is in each orbit. And then you could drill down further by going to your planetary sheet, where you have your planet summary. Maybe you could draw some features here, what type it is, the attributes of the different inhabitants on your planet, the different locations here. So a little guide here where you can draw in a little map, what kind of planetary stats you have, the world size, the gravity, the atmospheric pressure, water, temperature, minerals, and vegetation, and then all of your different traits for those planets. I mean, how cool is that? It's a little character sheet for your planet. And so I could see just playing a game with this where you are building out a galaxy and drawing in all the details and then just kind of seeing how your galaxy is, what's going on between the different planets and the different civilizations, how are the different technological levels interacting with each other, if they even are. And then you can also buy these cards here that you can cut out and print that you could put underneath each of your planets to keep track of different things like the system it's in, the type of planet it is, traits, and so on. So again, just really handy and really thoughtful. I love these sheets so much. Now, if you wanted to kind of, go land on one of these planets and really dive deep into some kind of ancient alien civilization that might have been there, I think if you want to do that, you might want to turn to Kevin Crawford's Dead Names, Lost Races, and Forgotten Ruins. And this will be the last thing we take a look at today. This is really cool. Of course, it's from Kevin Crawford. How could it not be cool? This guy makes some of the best RPG and RPG supplements ever. But this says that here, beneath the dirt of fallen worlds lie the bones of forgotten empires and the relics of peoples now vanished into legend. Countless wonders lie silent, awaiting the hands of the starfaring adventurers and the curiosity of fearless investigators. What glorious citadels and eldritch marvels remain undiscovered by humanity in the present age? And what miracles lie in the silent tombs of ancient alien kings? Dead Names provides a stars without number GM with the tools to build these lost races and their magnificent works. So we have this small barren planet here. Maybe at one time there was an ancient alien civilization that lived on this planet, and it is our mission to go to this barren planet and find out what this alien civilization was all about. What was their technology like? What were their structures like? What was the culture like? And if you want to know any of that, you can turn to this great book for finding out all kinds of different things. What happened to this lost civilization? What caused them to vanish? What was their ultimate fate? How did they exist? What were their structures like? What was their way of life like? What was their technology like? What kind of powerful items were they protecting? Different traits for your cultures and their whole history. Just super cool. This is such a neat book. I love this book, and just kind of picking this up and just making a little ancient alien civilization. How did they heal? How did they rest? How did they reproduce? Placing hazard manifestations here, placing beasts and sapience, placing features of interest. So here we have all of our points of interest, different things that we might find while we are exploring this small barren planet, hidden fortresses and how to set up your maps for those and what you might find in those. Just really cool. This Dead Names is a supplement that could be used with any of the things we showed today. This would lay on top of Space Aces, on top of Star Dogs, and on top of these Galaxy Builder cards, just to dive deeper and just to add a little bit of weirdness into your science fiction, because I always like a little bit of weirdness in the games that I play, and this is sufficiently weird and cool. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these 3 different tools/systems for creating galaxies for your solo science fiction role-playing games. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.